morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I'm Conrad. This is the 45. It is week 19 somewhere. I'm not sure it's week 19 in the Premier League, even though that's what it says it is. We know we've had a lot of cancellations, 7 to be made up, starting this week with midweek matches. But we only looked at 3 this week, starting with Sheffield United and Spurs. So down to 1 at the hour mark, David McGoldrick getting the goal. Sheffield United playing well. You think just they might have a chance at snatching the point here. 3 minutes later, Ndombele has a moment of magic that was absolutely sublime. Even if that's a pass, it's unbelievable. Just how he gets that on the outside of his boot and puts it in the back of the net was unbelievable. So as a result, Sheffield United continue the worst season in Premier League history, but they are far from the worst team to have ever played in the Premier League. They are so unlucky. I mean, in this one, their XG was only 1.3 for Spurs, but they made some critical mistakes that Spurs just absolutely punished them for. And they make those mistakes, and they turn into things like Ndombele's goal. I don't know how to explain it. Right?
In the preview of this game, we mentioned, I think it was this one where we said, whichever side is more clinical is going to be the one that wins. And that's not a very groundbreaking piece of analysis, but it ultimately was a case of you saw brilliance from Harry Kane and from Ndombele that ultimately was the reason why they had those 2 goals. And then just a nice goal from Aurier. It was the McGoldrick goal was very well done, very well worked, and that was a sign that this is a very talented Sheffield United team that can still create very good goals. It's just they haven't been burying them at enough consistency. And this match, you kind of almost have to applaud the goals from Kane and Ndombele, and those will happen to you because you can't really mark Ndombele better in that situation. You have his back's to goal, and he manages
two guys.
He manages to put it over the head of your goalie. So, this isn't a result that I think they'll be too down about. We said this was the one that could catalyst the season, maybe surprise them. They'll be happy with the performance. It's just they want a bit more luck when they go away to Man United next, who don't have the greatest home form. So they'll be very confident that maybe a result is possible there. But for Sheffield United to be confident long term, they're going to need to get these results. And on the Spurs side of things, not much to say. They're bottom of the league. You want to make a title rush. You want to make a top 4 rush. You have to win these kinds of matches. So. Good win for them, just good performance overall, and I think that some positives for Sheffield United, which is good. You don't want to be holding on to that for the entire season, but it's where they are right now, so you got to work with what you have.
On Mourinho's side, they saw this match out. We discussed that as a problem in the preview. I expected a move meltdown. That did not happen. Spurs are now on 33, 4 behind leaders Man United. Sheffield United remain bottom, 11 points from safety. Next up for Sheffield United, as you mentioned, away at Old Trafford, Man United. Spurs next up, home against Liverpool. Interesting top 4 matchup. Actually, like a top 5 matchup now. It's such a jumble, but they are tight on points. Speaking of Liverpool, 2 most successful clubs in England, Man United, Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. Even in the lead-up yesterday, you said Liverpool having something like 60% possession, and they end up, maybe it's a 0-0, and you tweeted this. Considering the hype from Liverpool and Man United fans, this game has 0-0 snoozer all over it. Lo and behold, to the disappointment of fans everywhere, you were correct. Not that it was a bad match, but Liverpool looked to be leaking confidence, certainly in front of goal. Scoreless in 3 straight. They cannot finish.
Yes.
Once again, featuring the heart of their midfield in the heart of their back line. They were wasteful, unable to capitalize on the possession, passing, pressing, nothing. Both managers feel their side deserved the full 3. This is the better result, I think, for United, even though they started and finished the day at the top of the table. Solskjaer's side, they did have some chances, especially late. Alisson made some key saves, and we end up with 1 point each in a 0-0.
Yeah. I want to start with Alisson because you make a good point on those saves he made. You could look at those and say those were just not extraordinary saves because they were kind of at him a bit, but I think it speaks to his positioning out of anything else. He's one of the best positional goalkeepers in all of the world. And so I think that it was another great performance from him in that regard. Saved them a point, in all honesty. And in their last 6.5 expected goals for Liverpool, they've only scored 1 of them. So they are just no confidence up front in the slightest, and they still have the most goals scored, but a lot of that is from the 7 they put past Palace, and some games where they had Diogo Jota in specific, who they miss sorely because what he is he's clinical, and he is a mentality monster kind of guy for Klopp. When he's back at the end of this month, that's going to be a big improvement for them. So I hesitate to say that this match is the death of their title charge, because Man City, as we'll talk about in a little bit, they look tremendous. So they definitely, I think, are everyone's favorites. They were our favorites at the beginning of the year, and they're beginning to play like it. But for Liverpool, if they struggle against Burnley in the next match on Thursday, don't put a goal past them at home, and if they, dare say, they lose their home streak to Burnley, then you really would have some actual concerns for this side. But until that match, they haven't even played half their games yet. And so I think there's still a lot more football to be played. And so I think that Liverpool will benefit from getting some players fit again, getting Matip back, getting Keita back, getting Jota back will just help all three aspects of your game, because Wijnaldum, as he moves on to Barcelona, I think is going to be eased out of the side eventually, because you want to be less reliant on him.
Play with the guys that you're going to play.
Exactly. The likes of Jones, Keita. I like Shaqiri in the midfield. I think that was a great call. On the United side of things, they were a bit fortunate in the first half that Liverpool weren't clinical, and they relied on that for a lot of the first half. And they came into it in the second half with the likes of Cavani on. I didn't like having Rashford on for so long, because he and offside are one of the greatest romance pairings in history. It was amazing how many times he was caught offsides in that match.
Always. All the time.
He was making great runs. It was just he was always making a step early.
Just a little bit ahead.
So I think this is a positive result for Man United. I don't think 2 months ago you would have thought a point at Anfield, you would have been biting your hand off.
They were in 15th place on November 1st when they had that 1-0 loss to Arsenal, the last time they lost in the league.
That's a huge turnaround. So, yes, you could say they are going to fall second if City win their game in hand. You could say all these things, but look, they are playing at an extremely good level. Defensively, Maguire and Lindelof were great. You don't say that very often.
Lindelof is fantastic.
So, a lot of positivity at Man United, which is a very rare thing. A lot of negativity at Liverpool, which we know how this season.
Also rare.
You know how this season is.
Yeah.
All it takes is drop points at Fulham and a win at Burnley for Liverpool, and the sides are flipped, and then the entire dialogue is changed. So, far too soon for teams to doom themselves. But United have themselves positioned very well. 12 games unbeaten. Can't be happier, I don't think.
Liverpool fourth on 34 points. Next up, home to Burnley, as you mentioned. United first on 37. They play Wednesday away to Fulham. Last up for us for these week 19-ish games, Man City and Crystal Palace. This is about what we expected. City relentless, Stones with the brace, Gundogan from range, Sterling's beautiful free kick. I don't know what that wall was doing. It was a strange positioning situation, but fully deflating any hopes Hodgson might have had for a miracle result at the Etihad. Palace managed 2 shots, none on target, 27% possession. Not a surprise against a City that is thoroughly dominant, and they jump all the way to second in the league on 35 points, just 2 behind the red side of Manchester. To your point earlier, also, they still have that game at hand. They are a machine, relentless. It feels inevitable that they're going to win this league. They are hitting form, but it's unremarkable. They're just grinding out games.
I think one thing that I want to look at more is Ruben Diaz and the numbers behind his arrival. I think he has been very quietly the best summer transfer out of anybody who's been brought in by any club in the Premier League, because he has transformed them defensively. Just 13 goals conceded in 17 games, which is by far the best mark in the league. 3 less than Villa, who have 16, and they've played 2 games less than you, so they still have more opportunities.
But he makes Stones look great. We had questions about is Stones good enough for City alongside Diaz. He looks incredible.
Yeah, I'm unsure about Laporte. I'm not sure if he's injured or if he's just not favored, which is, if he's not favored, it's a wonderful problem to have when you have John Stones getting braces for you. He always had this potential, and that's why they spent so much money on him, and he's finally getting it out of him, which is a very, very big thing. And so I think Man City I kind of alluded to it a bit earlier, I think they're the favorites for the title right now, because they are defensively as sound as they've ever been. They are scoring goals, and they have the world-class talent like we see in this game. It's just a case of, can they keep it up for longer periods of time, and especially against the bigger sides. They've shown that against Chelsea, against Man United. And Villa's their next game. I'm fascinated about that one because Villa are on a very long break. Maybe that game doesn't even happen because of their COVID positivity tests. And so it's just City have been dealing with their blows they've taken with the COVID losses, with all the things that have happened to them. Um, the one thing I'd say downside for City before I talk about Palace is 1.14 xG this game and 4 goals scored. It's not sustainable to score this many goals against Palace. So maybe the only concern you have is you didn't create that many raw opportunities against Palace. You scored 4 goals, though, so you can't really complain in a 4-0 win. And then for Palace, I'm not sure you really can say too much. This is one of the best sides in the world. And they were just in a pissed-off mood where they were going to say, everyone's talking about Man United, Liverpool. Well, we believe we're the best team in the league.
Here we are.
So I think, I think Hodgson has some problems there. I think a little too negative overall, not able to create enough. But you're still 13th. You're not quite in a relegation battle. You're 11 clear of the drop. So I think this is a good result for Palace. Right. It's not a bad result for Palace. I nearly said that a 4-0 loss was
It's what we expected.
It's not about
for them.
It's not the end of the world. That's the way I'll say it. I
No.
butchered that at the end.
But look, to expect anything more from them at the Etihad against a team that's playing as well as City are, this is, again, we said it, this is what we expected here. But City will put their 8-match win streak on the line. That's all competitions, not just Premier League. They've got some FA Cup in there as well, I think. On the line against Villa on Wednesday, as you mentioned. I am really looking forward to that match. That'll be, I think, one of their 2 matches in hand, right? And then one of 4 for Villa. Yeah. But really looking forward to that. That should be really fun to watch. Hopefully they play.
The biggest bummer is Villa. We've talked about them a couple of weeks now. Is they're one of the most fun teams to watch in the entire Premier League, and they're the one side that's been missing matches. Like it was the Tottenham game and the Everton game that they missed. Those would have been the 2 most exciting games of the last week, I think, if they were played. So if they're able to play Man City, it's going to be very exciting for everyone involved. And not to say it's the first big test for Man City, but you've beaten up who you should have, including Chelsea as well, who are in a bit of a lull in form. But that would be the one where I really say, wow, like, you're for real. Title run, title favorites, I think. And it's their title to lose if they're able to beat Aston Villa.
Palace, meanwhile, to your point, they stay 13th on 23 points. They have played all 19 matches thus far, so they are halfway through. So mathematically, they continue that production. They'll be safe, which would make me wrong about them getting relegated. They have a London derby against West Ham next Tuesday, so they've got some time off, 26th. They don't have any midweeks because neither they or they just don't have any matches to play in hand, right? They've played their full slate.
That's the benefit.
So it's amazing that we have like a hand. I think we said 5 teams will have played 19 matches after week 19.
Yes.
So they are one. And they've got a 8-day break here. They don't play till next Tuesday, or more than that, 9 days. I can't do math. That'll do it for us. Jack, Conrad, this has been the Footy 5. Please let us know what you think in the comments. Look for us on the Twitter at the Footy 5. Take care now.